This is part 2 of the That's Not My Mom story. Watch the first part before this one to get the full story. I hope you enjoy. My throat dried out as I read the note over and over. The letters were smudged, like whoever wrote them had pressed too hard, as though carving the message into the page. My mom was alive, that's what it said. But it felt less like reassurance and more like bait. I turned the note over, nothing on the back. No address, no name, no number. Just the words that felt like a dare. Do you want to see her? I shoved the note in my pocket and left the apartment. The streets were too bright, too noisy after the silence of the night. I walked fast, like if I kept moving, I'd stay ahead of whoever was playing with me. But I didn't know where to go. The police wouldn't believe me if I showed them the note. They'd think I wrote it myself. So I walked aimlessly, turning corners at random until I ended up in an old part of town, where the buildings leaned too close to each other and the sidewalks cracked like broken teeth. That was when I saw him. At the far end of the street, a man stood perfectly still, facing me. Tall, motionless. I couldn't make out his features, but I didn't need to. I knew it was the same figure from the photo. My chest tightened. I took a step forward, then another. He didn't move. But when I blinked, he was closer. Not by much, just a few steps, but enough that I knew he hadn't walked. I stumbled back, turned, and ran. My shoes slammed against the pavement, my breath loud in my ears. I didn't look behind me until I reached the busier part of the city. When I finally turned, the street behind me was empty. I went back to my mom's apartment, shaking, heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Inside, the air felt heavy, like the walls had soaked up all my panic. I locked the door, sat on the couch, and stared at the window across the street. The curtain in the opposite apartment was open again. A figure was sitting in the chair, still, staring out. Hours passed. I didn't move. When night fell, something changed. A faint tapping came from the window glass. Not from outside, but from inside my mom's apartment. I whipped my head toward the sound, but there was nothing. Just the reflection of my pale face staring back at me. I told myself I was imagining things, that the exhaustion was making me hallucinate. But then I heard it again. A soft, deliberate tap, tap, tap. I moved closer to the glass, heart hammering, and saw it. A fingerprint smeared across the inside of the window. Not mine. I staggered back. My skin prickled as though someone had brushed past me. That was when the phone rang. I froze. My mom's phone had been missing. I hadn't heard a single sound from it since she vanished. But now, in the silence of the apartment, it rang. The sound came from her bedroom. I walked slowly, every muscle in my body screaming not to. The ringing grew louder, shriller. On the bed, under the pillow, the phone vibrated. I picked it up. The screen was cracked, the battery low. The caller ID was blank. I answered. At first, static. Then a voice. My mom's voice. "Come find me," she whispered. "Please." "Where are you?" I cried. "Tell me. I'll come right now." But her voice cut in and out, distorted. They don't like it when... Please, hurry." The line went dead. I stood there shaking, staring at the phone in my hand. And then the door creaked. Slowly. Opening. I knew I had locked it. I turned toward the sound. The door was half open, the hallway beyond black as tar. "Mom?" I whispered. Something moved in the dark. A figure. It stepped closer and I could see its face now. My mom's face, but wrong. Her smile stretched too wide, her eyes too dark. She raised her hand slowly and beckoned me forward. "Come on," she whispered. I stumbled back, clutching the phone, shaking my head. No, that's not you." She stepped into the light, and for a split second, her face flickered, like a bad projection. Underneath the skin was something else, something pale and smooth and hollow-eyed. I bolted past her, shoving the door wide open, sprinting down the hall and out into the night. I didn't stop running until my lungs burned, but as I slowed, Gasping, I heard it again. A voice, my mom's voice, calling my name. I turned in circles, searching the empty street, and then I saw it. A scrap of paper taped to a lamppost, my name written on it. I tore it down with shaking hands. On the back was an address scrawled in the same messy ink. An address on the edge of the city. I had no choice. I went. The building was old, abandoned looking, windows shattered, doors chained. I climbed through a broken window into a hall filled with dust and the smell of mold. My flashlight beam cut across peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. Somewhere deeper inside, I heard it. "Help me." My mom's voice. I followed, heart pounding, through winding corridors until I reached a door at the end of a long, narrow hallway. The sound was louder now, muffled cries on the other side. I shoved the door open, and there she was. My mom, tied to a chair, her face pale and streaked with tears. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Please," she sobbed, "untie me. Hurry." I rushed forward, fumbling with the knots, my hands trembling too badly to work. But I managed. The ropes fell loose and she collapsed into my arms. "I thought I'd never see you again," she whispered. I held her tight, tears burning my eyes. "It's okay. I've got you. You're safe now." But then, a sound. From the dark corner of the room. Something moved. I turned, pulling her behind me, as a figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, pale, hollow-eyed. It tilted its head, and my mom clutched me tighter, whispering, "Don't let it take me again." The figure stepped closer, and the walls seemed to pulse around us, the floor bending, the air thick with a low hum. My flashlight flickered, and for a split second, I saw not one figure but dozens, crowding the room, all identical, all staring with those black, hollow eyes. I grabbed my mom's hand and ran. We bolted through the corridors, the air behind us thick with whispers, the sound of footsteps multiplying. We didn't stop until we burst into the night air, gasping, holding each other. For the first time, I felt like maybe it was over. Maybe I had beaten them. But when I looked at her face in the streetlight, something wasn't right. Her smile was too wide, and when she said my name, her voice sounded like an echo. Her smile held too long, stretching in the dim glow of the streetlight. It wasn't just relief. It was something else. Something too sharp, too fixed. My chest tightened as I tried to tell myself it was just the shock, just the trauma of what she'd been through. But when she spoke my name again, it echoed slightly, like two voices overlapping in her throat. I pulled my hand away. She noticed. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, tilting her head. Her eyes didn't leave mine, not even to blink. "Nothing," I lied. "We should go home." She nodded, but the smile stayed. We walked together through the quiet streets. Every step felt wrong. Her gait was off, her stride just slightly too long, her arms swinging too stiffly, like she was imitating what walking looked like rather than actually doing it. I tried not to look, tried to keep my eyes straight ahead, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was studying me, watching every movement I made. Back at the apartment, she unlocked the door before I could use my key. I hadn't seen her take one, hadn't seen her grab anything when we escaped, but there it was in her hand. She slid it into the lock smoothly, like she'd been carrying it all along. Inside, the air was thick, stale. The curtains were still drawn, the faint outline of the watcher's window across the street barely visible through a slit. She walked into the kitchen and began boiling water as if nothing had happened, humming under her breath. The tune was strange, familiar but warped, like a childhood lullaby slowed down and bent out of shape. "Do you want tea?" she asked. "Mom," my voice cracked. "What did they do to you?" Her humming stopped. The kettle hissed. Slowly she turned, still smiling. "Nothing. I'm fine now." But her eyes were too black, too wide, and when she blinked, the lids closed sideways instead of up and down. I stumbled back, heart racing. "You're not..." The lights flickered, buzzing. For an instant, I wasn't in the kitchen anymore. I was back in that abandoned building, the walls pulsing, the whispers rising. Figures with hollow eyes pressed against me, their voices layering into one sound. She doesn't belong to you. I blinked hard, gasped, and the apartment returned. My mom, or whatever she was, stood inches from me now, her smile stretching unnaturally wide, teeth too many, too sharp. "Don't fight it," she whispered. Her voice doubled again. "You wanted me back. Now you have me." I bolted for the door. She didn't stop me. Not right away. In the hall, the air felt heavier, pressing on my chest. Every door I passed had a small eye drawn on it in black marker. I swear they hadn't been there before. Each one seemed to follow me as I ran, until I reached the stairwell and burst outside into the night. The city was wrong. The streets bent at odd angles that hadn't been there before. The lamps buzzed, their light flickering in sickly colors, green, purple, red. People walked past, but their faces were blank. Smooth skins stretched where their eyes and mouths should be. They turned toward me as I ran, their heads tilting in perfect unison. I didn't stop until I reached the bus station. It was almost empty, only a handful of people waiting. Normal people. Faces, eyes, voices. I sank onto a bench, gasping, trying to convince myself that the last hour hadn't been real, that it was exhaustion, paranoia, too much fear eating me alive. Then I heard her voice again. "Sweetheart." I looked up. My mom was standing across the street, waving at me. Her smile looked normal now, her eyes the same as I remembered. She looked tired, but real. I wanted to run to her, but I couldn't move. My body locked, my hands gripping the bench so tightly my knuckles whitened. Behind her, in the reflection of a dark shop window, I saw it. Not her reflection. Something taller, pale, hollow-eyed. And it was smiling too. I tore my eyes from the window, forcing myself to look only at her, not at the warped shadow looming behind. She waved again, more insistently this time, calling my name louder, as if nothing was wrong, as if she hadn't been tied in a chair hours ago, as if she hadn't smiled too wide in the apartment. My legs finally obeyed me. I stood up, but instead of moving toward her, I backed away. Her expression faltered, the smile twitching like static breaking across the screen. "Don't you want to come with me?" she called out, her voice ringing too clear, cutting above the noise of traffic like it was directed straight into my skull. The handful of people at the station didn't look at her. They didn't even seem to hear. One man checked his watch. A woman dug through her purse. Not a single head turned, though her voice was so sharp it made my ears ring. I turned and stumbled toward the buses. Any bus. Anywhere. The schedule board glowed above me, but the names of the destinations flickered, scrambled, rearranging themselves into nonsense letters before settling again. Something touched my shoulder. I spun, ready to fight, but it was just a man. An older man in a tattered coat, his eyes watery but human. He leaned close and whispered, "Don't look at her too long." "What?" I gasped. "She's not yours anymore," he said, his breath sour with alcohol. "If you follow her, you won't come back." I grabbed his arm. "Do you know where she is? Where my mom is?" He shook his head. "You've already found her, and lost her. That's how it works." Then he jerked free and vanished into the crowd of people boarding the next bus. When I looked back across the street, she was gone. The reflection in the shop window lingered a heartbeat longer, grinning, before it too faded into the glass. I barely remember leaving the station. My legs carried me through twisting alleys until I ended up back at her apartment building, like the city itself had dragged me there. The window across the street was glowing again, the curtain drawn open, a figure sitting in the chair, perfectly still, facing me. This time I didn't go inside. I stood at the window of her apartment and stared back. Minutes passed, maybe hours. My eyelids grew heavy, the city hum around me turning into a low, droning buzz, and I slipped into something like sleep. I dreamed of her, She was in a forest, calling my name. Her hands were bloody, her dress torn, but her eyes were the same ones I remembered from childhood, warm and desperate. "Please find me," she begged. "The one you saw wasn't me." I woke with a jolt, heart pounding, the imprint of her voice still in my ears. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Then the door creaked open again. This time I didn't move. I sat frozen on the couch as the figure stepped in. My mom, or what looked like her. She walked to the kitchen, humming that strange tune again. She set out 2 cups, poured tea, and sat across from me. Her smile was calm, natural. "Why are you afraid of me?" she asked gently. My throat was dry. "Because you're not her." That's the end for now. Like, subscribe, and also comment what you would do. Stay tuned for the next part. And don't forget to have a scary night.